Welcome back after, I guess, a small hiatus of, everyone being busy wrapping up the end of summer. This is the Album Society. I'm your host, DJ Trini Shata, alongside DJ Nephew. And we're back, and hopefully we should be back on a bit of a regular cadence. But also, if you are new to the show and you're now listening to us on Apple Music, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, thank you for tuning in. You can always watch the videos on Spotify and on YouTube. So look out for that. We're definitely doing big things. We're trying to step up our game, our podcasting game.
Yes, we are.
So what's good? How's it been?
Man, it's been busy. It's been busy, man. I've been, hanging out in the sun, catching some sun, catching those summer rays, man. Just trying to wrap it all up, but it's exhausting traveling.
Summer doesn't end in Florida, but we do have the worst part of the summer coming up for us is hurricane season.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, you guys got your very first one, right? I guess it didn't hit land, but it was coming at you guys nice and strong.
That one was huge. I think they said it was like 500 miles in the width. If that came any closer, that would have covered the whole state.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys dodged a bullet with that one for sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping, unlike last year, we get nothing.
Right.
Nothing. I don't mind a little bit of rain, some tropical storm, but nothing compared to what we had last year with Milton and I forget the other one.
Right.
That was like, not Irene. It was literally like two back to back. Well, we had 3 August, and then we had 2 back to back in September, October. So. Yeah, we're not looking forward to that.
Right.
But yeah, so as we get into it, we are discussing Big Pun's Capital Punishment.
Yeah.
And what do you think?
Listening to this album, I was like, this takes me back, right? There's a couple tracks on there. You had some radio hits, for that. But we'll talk about the tracks when we get there. But I guess the island vibe is in there, and I can rock with that, but it's not my forte like you.
Mm-hmm.
But when he gets into some of these deeper tracks, kind of like he had Prodigy on one of the tracks, that deep Mob Deep sound, that street New York vibe, that I was like, okay, this slaps, and it just showed how versatile he was in this album. It really took off a little bit. Or like, dang, I should have been bumping this more than I.
Well, I think for me, growing up, I guess more on that East Coast, late 90s East Coast vibe, it was everything like that. It hit. And you're right. I mean, it's very New York, where you have a little bit of the island vibe, which a lot of New York artists from Busta Rhymes, Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's their background, it's their influence. But when you also have that, and then you have that tough, hard-hitting, typical New York East Coast rap, where you have Mob, you have Busta, you have even Black Thoughts on there, right? Mm-hmm. So it goes very lyrical. I believe Cannabis is on one of the tracks as well.
Yeah.
So he sampled on one of the tracks. But yeah, it went straight, like it was right off the bat. It was one of my favorite albums that year.
Right.
It came out in 1998, April 28, 1998. So almost 30 years old. That's crazy.
Right.
27 years old to be exact. But yeah, definitely it was nominated for a Grammy. It lost to Jay-Z's Hard Knock Life Volume 2, which 98 was a good year. 98 was a really good year for hip hop, especially coming out of New York. A lot of big albums dropped. But yeah, so let's get into some of the track lists and let me know what you think. I'll start with the intro. It's very much comic book style because it's the Big Punisher and it's little kids talking in the streets. Love the intro. First track is Beware.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Man, so that one was... it just came off right out the gate being very lyrical. It was like, this is kind of my first, it's gonna be my first album, and I got to let people know where I'm at. And his lyrics came off hard, energetic deliveries. It was probably an eye opening experience. Like, man, he ain't playing.
Yeah, then we went straight and then
Yeah,
straight from Beware into super lyrical.
yeah,
And Black Thought ripped it. He ripped
yeah.
it on that. Great production. It was produced by Rockweiler. So he went straight right after each other, back to back. So if you had any question, because a lot of times most people when they first heard Pun was with the Beatnuts track
Yeah.
off the books, unless you were listening to like Stretch and Bobbito or some of the freestyles you might have heard on Funkmaster Flex or Hot 97.
Mm-hmm.
But right off the bat, you would have heard, that from the Beatnuts, and then you would have heard Still Not a Player, which was the first single that came out. So, which, if you weren't in that kind of East Coast realm of music, that's probably the first thing you're hearing from Pun, which was a club track, which was a definitely certified radio hit.
Yeah. And you know what I noticed with this track too, just because he had some longer bars in this track. He didn't have that Fat Joe Biggie, that breathing, that's their signature breathing and sound. He actually kept it really in control for being a heavier set guy, and it was I really picked up on that, like, man, he's actually just letting it go without taking those big gasps of air, in those rhymes, which was, I thought it was pretty dope.
Yeah, and I think you hear it a little bit more in the Yeah Baby album, where obviously Pun did get a lot bigger, and rest
Yeah.
in peace, Pun. He
Yeah.
did pass away from cardiac arrest due to his size. But you heard it a little bit later on. He did obviously have some issues with his health, but you did not notice. You couldn't tell.
Yeah.
If you never knew what Pun looked like, you would never know he had
Yeah.
the gasp that you would say like you would get from Big Pun, or I mean not Big Pun, but Fat Joe
Yeah.
or
Biggie.
Biggie.
Yeah.
Then we went into Taster's Choice, which was a skit. If you had the clean album, you never heard it. I mean, it is what it is. Pun skits. I think there are some skits later on that
I felt like that skip bit. It was a slight of a bite of what Biggie did earlier, right?
yeah,
With the little Kim part, but yeah. If you
yeah.
know, you know.
Then we went. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
And then we went into Still Not a Player, which was I think the first single
Yes.
off the album featuring Joe, and iconic video, classic. Him in the club, and him and Joe. But Still Not a Player, certified. Always been.
Well-
will always get love from me when I'm playing.
Isn't that technically a kind of a remix?
It is
Yeah.
because there is when we go further down the album, it
It is just I'm Not a Player.
I'm Not a Player.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's Still Not a Player, which was
Yeah.
technically the remix, but I think that was the first single they decided to go with, which right off the bat, dope.
Yeah.
Dope. I remember that watching that on BT Rap City.
Yeah.
It was classic.
Yeah.
Then we went into Dream Shatter. Dream Shatter. Oh, there was another intermission, small skit. Then there was Dream Shatterer, which he just shits on people, man. Like he just went in. Like he's there to fuck you up,
Yeah.
mess with your dreams. And I like the aspect of Pun, like being very cerebral
Yeah.
with the way he's talking about it.
Yeah. And then so I was like this was one of those ones where I was like, he kind of lost me just a little bit on the album. So I looked into it, and I realized it was actually produced by Fat Joe. So
For Dream Shatter,
Yeah.
I did not know that.
yeah, so I was like, okay, so Fat Joe, him and I have a love-hate relationships. I'm not really into his albums all the way, but he still has those bangers. But listening back on it after I found out it was Fat Joe, I was like, okay, this makes sense.
Well, because I think what people don't realize, early Fat Joe, just one's envy. Like Joe was the dude.
Yeah.
He was in the streets.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Joe has a lot of stories as well. If you ever watch Joe and Jada podcast, but his style was the streets.
Yeah.
I think later 90s,
Yeah.
Going into early 2000s, a lot of people got to know Fat Joe off of his more commercial pop hits, and then
Yeah.
stuff like Lean Back or stuff with Ashanti,
Yeah.
J Lo, things like that. But if you don't know, right, Joe is that lyrical guy.
Yeah. Kind of like it, I guess it's kind of more of the Latin side of Biggie almost. You know?
In a way,
Yeah.
you can look at it that
Yeah.
way. Then we went into Punish Me, featuring Miss Jones, which whatever happened to Miss Jones. But what I used to love about a lot of, because I early on was never that much into R&B,
Yeah.
and what I liked about a lot of the older albums from the '90s, there's always one or two features,
Yeah.
like feature R&B features. So this one
Yeah.
is a classic,
Yeah.
kind of a slower groove. I would say like
Well,
80 BPM.
yeah, well, what I like about it is, most rappers go hard, right? Like, this about females or whatever. He kind of opened up just a little bit. He still had a strong side about it, but man, he got hurt a little bit, right, in this track.
Yeah.
So, he had to just kind of lay it out there, like, man, why she do this?
Exactly.
Yeah,
And then we went right into, I guess, one of the most part one of one of the most iconic skits.
yeah,
Packing a Mac.
yep,
And it had I believe it's Cuban Link in there as well. Well, the second one, the second part, he gets into that, but it kind of plays into the next song because he's talking. He gets run up on in the streets and he's
Yep.
packing a Mac. And
Yeah.
he goes all out. And then we go into You Ain't a Killer, and talking about you ain't a killer, right?
yeah,
You know,
right,
pretty much you are, and it kind of goes with the Ice Cube track from when Ice
it,
Cube's album where he's talking about kids trying to, you're trying to be gangster, but
yeah,
you ain't a gangster.
yeah,
And pun went in on that, and I think a lot of the '90s era, there was still a lot of kids that, they thought they could be gangster. Where
yeah.
the times have changed in that sense, where these guys were gangster, they were in the streets, and
Yeah.
they're talking about their shit.
And this was the very first track that I got that, Queensbridge style, the raw, like this is the
This
streets.
Queens,
Yeah.
Bronx, it's
Yeah.
it's right up in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And then right off of that, we go into packing a Mac in the back of the act skit,
Yeah.
which
I love that. I listened
will
to that.
always,
Yeah.
always, always stick with me.
And if you don't know what
And
an ack is, man, you better go back in the days. Acura's were the shit.
hey man, I seen one there was an Acura Legend the other day, and it was probably like a '97,
Yeah.
maybe. And I'm like, I can't remember the last time
Yeah.
I seen a Legend like that, or the old Integras.
Yeah, I had a hatchback Integra, but yeah,
Oh man,
Yeah.
my first car was the broke version, 89 Accord
right.
with the flip up lights.
Nice.
That was my first
Yeah,
ride.
Yeah.
89 Accord with flip up lights.
flip-up
Mind you,
lights were fly,
mind you,
though.
I got it in 2000.
Yeah, those lights were fly though. Back in
Yeah,
the day.
but my problem was I got in an accident with it not too long after getting it, and they stopped making the flip up lights, so the car pretty much became a write off because you couldn't find those flip up lights.
Right.
Then we went right into, and the thing is, this album looks like there's a lot of tracks, but there's a lot of skits in between.
Yeah, yeah.
One of my favorites was Caribbean Connection with Wyclef.
Yeah.
Where you get the Puerto Rican meets Haiti.
Yeah.
That Caribbean connection, that vibe, as a little bit of a dancehall reggae vibe. Absolutely amazing. It was produced by, I believe this one was also, it was written by Wyclef, produced by Young Lord, but written by Wyclef and Pun. But definitely, you got the vibe. You got the New York Caribbean vibe.
Yeah.
And you're getting slowly into you kind of get that segment of where Pun can go and how versatile he is. He hits you with the heavy hits. You got the R&B features, and then we're gonna go with more of a Caribbean vibe with Wyclef.
Yep. Yeah, and Wyclef, man, that dude's versatile. He brings a sound that nobody else really brings.
And I think that's why the Fugees is in my top list of albums.
Yeah.
It was definitely one of my favorite albums, one of my favorite tracks, or sonically, it's a bit of everything.
Yeah.
And I think Wyclef is one of the very few artists that can have a song with Kenny Rogers
Right.
and then have a track with Bounty Killer and, do a smash like Killing Me Softly with Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
So Fuji's overall were just something extraordinary outside of what you would normally listen to. And
Yeah.
especially if you're not familiar, but I think it's just for them being certain artists, just being eclectic and being
Yep.
outside of the box.
Exactly.
Track 13 was Glamour Life. We first get to hear Cuban Link, Triple Seis, Fat Joe, and Armageddon.
Yeah.
Original Terror Squad crew. It was produced by the LES.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly,
This was dope.
and the music, sonically, Glamour Life, amazing. But just hearing the way they all come together, and that's the Terror Squad.
Yeah.
And that was, I guess, you could say, it's kind of the birth of the Terror Squad on this album.
Yeah.
This is the first time we're seeing all of them together and hearing each one of them rhyme. I always like Cuban Link. Triple Seis was one of my favorites as well.
Yeah. So what I like about this one too is he kind of gave that shout out to Nas, Street Dreamer, like Nas, right? I'm like, okay. It's kind of like, yeah, give some of those old schools a little bit of that credit of being able to have that street life dream. So yeah, it was dope.
Yeah. And then we went after that. We dropped
Red.
Capital Punishment, title
Yeah.
track of the album, featuring Prospect. Lots. It was actually produced by the Infinite Architects. So shout out to them. I like the production on this track. It was really good.
Yeah, it was good, and I just like that it was kind of like that family life type flow to it. So you got a glimpse inside of what he was going through. So
Exactly.
yeah,
And then we probably one of the funniest skits on the album, and I think it's funnier when you first hear it.
Yeah.
It's with Funkmaster Flex.
yeah,
And I think we don't get enough skits on albums anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I miss a lot of 90s and early 2000s rap albums. There was a lot of skits, a lot of jokes.
Yeah.
And Funk Flex is one. Yeah, if you have not heard the skits, like even if you just didn't listen to the album or have not listened to the album, go back, listen to the track, but listen to the skits. The skits are what makes the album. And it's kind of a good kind of break in between.
Yeah.
But it just makes the album and kind of gets you into the next track.
This skit was a mess though. I'm like, oh my goodness, the stuff he talks about on that skit. It was like 2 minute skit, and it had me rolling. It had me rolling.
The Trisney, and he's telling Flex him and Joe are like two bears in the wild, and
He invited him to join too.
the thing is that the sight of it, like you think it's like, man, I don't want to think about this, but then it makes you laugh so much. And then we go into track 16, which is I'm Not a Player.
Yeah.
Which technically is the original to Still Not a Player.
Yeah.
And some DJs mix it. I try to mix it sometimes, like start with I'm Not a Player,
Yeah.
and then go into Still Not a Player.
Yep, and then this is where I guess kind of like where Joe kind of made his R&B debut in this time as well. So Joe was singing that hook.
No, Joe was on the other one.
Oh, was he? Oh, my
Joe
bad.
is on Still Not a Player.
Oh, Still Not a Player. Are you sure?
I'm Not a Player. I mean, it's kind of the same.
Yeah.
In the sense of,
But
it's a bit. I mean, this one carries more of the OJ sample, "Darling, Darling, Baby," whereas it's sampled as well in "I'm Not a Player," but you got more of Joe.
Yeah.
In the other version.
True.
But I think this one peaked at number 57 on the Billboard Hot 100, and it helped the album become number one. Then we go into one of the greatest classics. It is a version of Deep Cover, originally Snoop and Dre,
Yep.
and Twins, and Dead in the Middle of Little Italy. That line, I think everyone, that Packing the Mac in the Back of the Act, and that line, everyone tried to rap that line because the flow.
Yeah.
When you hear Pun and Joe, and I remember the video both of them in the hood, and they're watching out the streets in the binoculars. Like
Yeah.
that line just solidified it. But
Yeah,
what did you think?
it
Because
was
being a West Coast dude,
yeah, well,
what did you think of the first time you heard Twins?
well, dude, listening to it, obviously my neck started snapping, right? But that beat just slaps. But then, well, that's exactly what I wrote on my notes here. It was a very complex verses, right? Just deep, and there's just this is I got this asterisk as probably one of my favorite albums on the track. I have three asterisks, and this was my second one. But yeah, it was honestly this might be. I'm on the fence about it. Might be the best track on the album. I'm kind of it's because I think
I
because it has that
think
West Coast vibe.
I think so. This is probably my top three or four on the album. Definitely, I would say it's up there.
Yeah,
There are some songs that I did like that didn't obviously make there more B sides on the album.
yeah,
But I'll talk. We're actually coming up to one of those that I really liked. Then we had the Rain and Sun interlude with
yeah,
Dead Prez. Then we went into Boomerang. Boomerang was pretty good. It wasn't. It's not one of my favorites. Overall,
yeah,
it's a decent track.
yeah. Once
Not
it,
sure how you rate it.
yeah, I rated it pretty decent. That kind of had that mob style mentality, you know, the New York mob type vibe to it. So it's kind of the crime side.
The crime side, yeah.
Yeah,
And then one of my favorite tracks on the album, it actually was on the Billboard charts. Yeah, I think it peaked at number 49 and number 43, depending on which track. It was produced by Rockwilder. You Came Up featuring Nori. Pun, You Came Up, that production on point. And you got that, you got to see Nori outside of CNN. And I think that's the time when Nori's album came out probably around the same time too. His solo album,
yeah,
Nore. And they ate this track together, man. Like they ate it.
right. Yeah, that's dope. And then they get
Then we had Tres Leches featuring Prodigy, and I know obviously Inspector Deck. I'll leave this. RZA produced this, if you didn't know, and Rock Ryder
yeah,
was also the other or he did the scratches, but this was produced by RZA.
yeah.
As a
Woo.
Wu fan, what's your take?
Honestly, Prodigy destroyed the track. He killed it. I
Prodigy was good.
Yeah, he just killed it. You know, like Inspector Deck brings it, but it just has that more that Mob Deep, the killer style beat that Prodigy's on top of. You know, Wu Tang has they have dope beats, but they're like, you know, they're just a little bit more farther out there. But this one just came straight to Queensbridge for me, man. I was like, this one is this is the one that I'm 50-50 on, probably be the best track on there, because Prodigy carried this album for sure.
Prodigy was dope in
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Then we had the Charlie Rock Shout skit, and then we had Fast Money. Fast
yeah,
Money, I like. The vibe was good. And then we ended the album with Parental Discretion featuring Busta Rhymes.
yeah,
Two lyrical, I think to me it was like a lyrical masterclass.
yeah.
Produced by Showbiz. What I guess what was your take on hearing Busta
I'm
and Pun's flow at the same time?
You know, I back in the days I didn't like Busta Rhymes. I was like, he's too fast. He's not really, you know, like my style.
He was
But
ahead of his time.
as I get older and listen to him, I'm like, damn, Busta was actually dope. He's actually really, really dope. Like I miss the Busta train, you know, but going back and I'm like, man, he kills it. He kills it. And then seeing him live too, he puts on one hell of a show too. He don't put nothing weak out there.
No,
Yeah.
but Busta, I think, all in all, he is a well seasoned artist. He
Yeah.
does from music production to his showmanship, which
Yeah.
a lot of artists, there might be amazing on album, and then when you get to see them on their live show, they're out of breath.
Yeah.
They suck. And I think a lot of the younger generation didn't know Busta for what Busta is, and I think
Right.
still even someone like Method Man, if you didn't know the Wu and you just started watching Power, And you're like, oh, that's a dude from Power. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or if you didn't know Mary J, oh, that's Monet from Power.
Right.
And it's funny because I was listening to it was Method and Mary J. They were playing it on Sirius the other day, and I was like, it's crazy to think this song's like 30 years old, and 30 years later they're both acting
Yeah.
on Power together. Like, who would have thought?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, the thing is just even with Method Man, he took that other avenue just really quick. He jumped on that, acting train, jumped on it all. And what's crazy is like the other Wu members really didn't do that. RZA was just doing his thing. He was collecting checks off everybody anyways. He was breaking them off, but he was still collecting his checks. But then slowly you can see him all developing. You God wrote a book. Chef is coming out with his own movie about Cuban links. It's just I think there's a point in your career where you got to know, hey, I can do music till this point, but I got to think about the future. And I think a lot of hip hop artists don't think about that point.
No, it's true.
Especially,
It very is true.
yeah, especially now. It's not even albums anymore. It's just like, can I survive to the next track?
Well, we're in a different world
Yeah.
where, before, and we'll talk about this. Like, okay, I'm not a player. We talked about this last show, but I'm not a player came out in 1997.
Yeah.
So I'm not a player. Came out in 97. Went to number 57, number 19 on the Hot Billboard tracks, number 3 on the rap tracks. A year later, still not a player comes out, and it went to number 24, number 6, number 1 on the Hot Dance Music charts, and then you came out later that year. So 3 albums or 3 songs from the album got released.
Yeah.
Whereas if you didn't buy the album or buy like a single where you got a B-side, you would not have known any of these other songs existed.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like where we're streaming, someone drops an album and you might just stream the whole thing in one sitting, and then you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Who's next?
Yeah.
Whereas in I guess, not to sound like an unk, but in our day,
Yeah.
we used to have to wait
Yeah.
for them to drop the single. And to be honest, as a DJ, we didn't, unless you bought the CD or bought the tape, you'd know all the albums, because we would generally have to wait for the record,
Yeah.
right? The record single or the record, or if you got a white label with some of the other tracks on it, which it was pretty much hard to get depending on who the artist was, or
Right.
if you had some bootlegger pressing them.
Right. And if I remember correctly, I don't know. It was like we said, sounding like unks here, but albums used to drop on Tuesdays. That way they'd have 4 days to sell before the weekend because they wanted the true numbers live as they possibly could get them, if I remember correctly.
I believe albums were Tuesdays. I think albums were Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Movies were Tuesdays. I believe. No, movies were always maybe Fridays.
Movies are always Friday. Yeah.
Movies were Friday. Sorry.
Yeah.
Blockbuster, like movies and TV and like your video store releases.
Yeah.
They were also on Tuesdays. The only reason I know, I worked at Blockbuster
Yeah.
for like 5 years in the 90s,
Yeah.
early 2000s. So yeah, movie releases always came out on video and DVD.
Yeah.
And whatever that came out on Tuesdays as well, along with music.
Yeah. And
So
it was always hard to get that new album because, man, we had school. You had to skip school or whatever to go get albums, right? But
I used to we had a couple record shops where you would hope that they would have a stash
Yeah.
kind of put towards the weekend that they would release. They'd
Yeah.
put out Saturday morning, because I would always make sure I would get to the record store Saturday morning before they open.
yeah.
But I mean, in those days, I think I was buying more dancehall and soca, so the rush for the hip hop albums wasn't as crazy. I mean, there was a rush, but also when you're purchasing Caribbean music, there's not a lot of it coming through, or you'd have to go to a couple different
Yeah.
record shops.
Right.
But yeah, so when you look at music now, it is a big change. This album did gold in Canada and platinum in the U.S. And gold is 50,000 sales, unit sales, and then platinum is 100,000. You got dudes that don't even stream 10,000 on the first day or 5,000, which it's kind of crazy, or like even sales where people are actually
Yeah.
purchasing music. You're not, a lot of people aren't doing that. But in the long run, I think some people, if you get a hit,
Yeah.
you might end up doing that.
Well, I really like I like how artists are kind of, branching out and thinking ahead of the game. Hey, I'm going to release an old school CD and that music's going to hit the streets 30 days before it will go to a streaming network. I think that's dope. That kind of brings it back to, oh, let me go cop that. Let me be the first one to hear it. you know?
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of artists releasing records as well.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's kind of cool to see the love for vinyl come back and
Hmm.
the love for cassettes,
Yeah.
which is absolutely crazy.
Right.
But to think about it, but it's like I don't even have a cassette player in my house anymore. Like,
Right. Mine's in the
I
storage unit.
have
I got
cassettes and
tapes. I got cassettes, but I don't play them at this
I
point. But
have a stack of VHS. I don't even have a VHS player.
right, you just don't want to let it go. It's one of some.
I have Friday.
Yeah.
I have Belly. I have Friday. There's a movie. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's called Capital Punishment. No, not Capital Punishment. Boricua's Bond with Big Pun and Fat Joe, and it came out while I was working at Blockbuster, and it was like one of those movies. It was during that era of like a lot of rappers were doing movies. I
Yeah.
think same thing like the Cam. What was the Cam movie again? Was it Paid in Full? No.
Well,
Oh my God.
well, you had
No.
Tupac doing stuff that back then
Well,
too.
no. Tupac did like
Yeah.
movies. But
Movies.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about like straight to
Oh,
VHS
straight
or
to
the hood movies.
yeah.
I gotta look this up. I gotta look this up because it's gonna bother me. Paid in Full. Yeah, it was
That's
Paid in
painful.
Full.
Okay, yeah. That album was.
Paid in Full. Then Rock Nation had a few movies as
Yeah.
well. I mean, the blockbusters around that time were like Belly and things like that.
Yeah.
Friday. But yeah, there was a lot of like these B-side movies or these
Yeah.
B-list, D-list movies that would come out. And I remember going to New York and you would see the guys selling all the bootlegs. You'd have the bootleg VHS.
Oh right. Yeah.
And we would cop them. But when I worked at Blockbuster, randomly, our store used to just get these like random hip hop movies. And I'm like, well, once it goes on, like, once no one starts renting it, I think what they used to do is put it on Previously Viewed.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, all right, I'm just going to buy it.
For like $1.
So I have a few of those. And I would love to see if these are actually like, if they're on streaming networks
Yeah.
now, because pretty much everything is streaming.
Right.
Or, figure out a way to watch it because
Yeah.
now I got to find a VHS.
Right. And I was just thinking about it. You know where I used to find a lot of artists that were, trying to get started, but I was like, who are they? What actually where I found a lot of artists was and one mixtapes.
And one mixtapes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
was
remember
like,
those.
whoa, who are these people? It's
The and one
crazy.
mixtapes were good.
Yeah.
There was another like even if you listen to like if you were more into the underground like the Raucous records like the sound bombing mixtapes because at first I didn't care for them, but then when you listen back and you go back to some of the older tracks and you like oh shit this is this
Yeah.
person or this person blew up.
Yeah, and I think Pun was on one of those, and I was like, who is this dude? And that's kind of where I got it. It was off one of those and one mixtapes because those you used to be able to get those pretty much anywhere. They actually used to give them out for free for promo. So we had a hip hop shop here, and we just get all kinds of stuff. Just that's where I learned about the hieroglyphics. Was just their free promos and stuff like that. But yeah, that and one actually put a lot of people on. You look back on it, you're like, damn, these artists didn't know whether they're going to be artists yet.
I don't know how I got it, but I was on a mailing list for Universal Music and a couple other. They would send cassette promos.
Yeah.
And I would get them in the mail, and I'm like, okay, cool. And I remember getting like the Rush Hour single promo, and it was like, I think it was the Cisco track, "How Deep Is Your Love,"
Yeah.
something like that. It was like the Cisco, and I think there was a couple of the tracks, but it was like on a cassette, like 4 songs. And some music stores did have promos as well. I remember, I think in Canada we had 2 stores, Music World and HMV, and they sometimes would have like the cassette single promos if you bought like whatever, you might get a free single or whatever like that.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, that's just crazy how we used to get our music. Now it's just new music Fridays on Spotify.
Exactly. Hey, and speaking of Spotify, you can listen to this
Yeah, you
podcast
can.
on Spotify, on Amazon, on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music.
Yeah,
So hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button. Um, Now we've changed our format a little bit,
yeah,
so we don't have the spinning wheel. So I
right.
don't know if you want to pull it up in the background.
Yeah, I've been looking for it, man. I think I lost that in a bookmark it, so we're just gonna have to wing it. I'm trying to look. I'm looking back at yours. We'll have to make probably a new list. But is there any album off the top of your head? We did bring up
Well,
Bone Thugs last time.
you had one in your list
Yeah,
that, I mean, I'll definitely go back and listen to. I think you had the Usher, what was it, Confessions
Usher. It was My Way.
or
That's,
My Way?
yeah,
Sorry,
that's an
My Way.
R&B track.
So
Yeah,
let's switch it up a little bit. We went Ice Cube, we went Big Pun,
yeah,
a little bit more on the heavier side. So
yeah,
let's switch it up. And maybe by the next show we'll have a new list
yeah.
of what we can pull from. And if you guys have any suggestions, let us know. Hit me up on social media at the Album Society POD
Yeah.
on Instagram, TikTok, and yes, Instagram and TikTok. Or you can just leave comments on the show on
Yeah.
YouTube or on Spotify or whatever. Or just hit me up at DJ Train Shata, and your Instagram is
It's I totally spotted because I just barely got it. It's Nephew 801.
Nephew 801.
Yeah.
So hit up Anthony, hit up myself, and
Yeah.
let us know if you have any ideas or any
Yeah.
suggestions for albums that you want us to talk about and review.
Mm-hmm.
We'll definitely get there. But yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
So next week, not next week, but the week after, because we're a bi-weekly podcast, we'll be talking about Usher,
My Way.
My Way. When was that released? Was that 98?
It was about that time. Let's see.
I think it was 98. Let's see.
98. Yeah, you hit it. Yep.
I think this is one of the first times, because I think there's a few tracks off of this album.
97. September 16,
Yeah.
97. Oh man, it's gonna be we're hitting an anniversary date on this almost.
We might get a re-release.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 97, I definitely already know what are my couple tracks on this that straight off the bangers. I still play now on radio, but definitely it would be a good way to go back and listen to it. Things that I haven't listened to in
Right.
years.
This is when
And-
we used to have to we didn't swipe left, swipe right to girls that we like. These you had to take on a ride, and this is something you put in the deck to try to lighten the
in the
mood.
deck, or make them the mixtape.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, man, thanks everyone for tuning in. Till next time, stay safe, stay
Yeah.
blessed. It is, if you're listening to this in real time when we drop this, it is almost Labor Day weekend, so the summer is done. So till next time, if you're going back to school or you're already in school, I feel sorry for you. Summer's over, man.
Yeah.
That was always the worst part.
It is.
I don't know about in Utah or in the West Coast when school started back, but in the Northeast, we always start back right after Labor Day.
Yep, they're kicking it off right now, but yeah, good luck.
All right. So we're going to end it out. Till next time, stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.
Peace.